let's start out, everybody introduce themselves, tell me what neighborhood you're from, and then give me kind of a description or a way you see your neighborhood. A phrase or some sort of description of how you perceive your neighborhood.
I'm Neil Hodges. I live in the Larchmere Buckeye neighborhood, and I think it's one of the most diverse, thriving, vibrant, walkable neighborhoods in Cleveland.
My name is Lou Barker. I live in the Shaker Buckeye area. I think my neighborhood is the most being the Ludlow area is actually the area that I live in, and it comprises of Shaker and Cleveland. That's all.
Hi, my name is Patricia Patty Benz. I live in the Glenville area, but I also worship in East Cleveland. My neighborhood at one time was interesting. My parents have been in the same house with the same phone number since '54.
Wow.
And I have seen that neighborhood go through some changes and not all good. And kind of hurtful. I'd love to see it revised and come back to life and be the fun place to live again.
Okay.
Like that. Hi, my name is Kim Woodson. I'm in the Glenville area. I've been in the Glenville area since '87 when I came from Philadelphia. And, it's different, but I enjoy it. And I see its potential, and I want it to grow and thrive.
I'm LaVon Williams, and I live in Cleveland Heights. I work in the Glenville area, so we'll have to talk. But Cleveland Heights, it's a really diverse neighborhood. It's full of art, and culture, poets and musicians and all that. But it's so diverse. You have people that are doing really well, and you have a large pocket of people that are really struggling. So that's how I see it.
My name is Mary Harper, and I live in East Cleveland. I moved there in 1976. It was a beautiful place to live. Nice schools, shopping centers. Huff Bakery was on the corner, ate a lot of donuts. Mm-hmm. And now most of the houses are toned down, and we have a whole lot of vacant areas. And I like to see houses, flowers, trees, and plants, and beautiful people and cars again like it once was. Because my church is located right at the end of my street. And I would like for some people to come so we can get some more worshipers.
You're just doing name.
You can give us your name and tell us your neighborhood and something about it, how you would describe it or what you think sums it up.
Okay, my name is Bayleet, and I also live in Cleveland Heights. And just coming back from being overseas for a long period of time, I grew up in Cleveland Heights, and the way it is now compared to when I was growing up is totally different. Cleveland Heights used to be the place people wanted to live, and now I don't even want to live there, really. It's a lot of crime, way more crime. High school is totally off the chain. We have police cars. When I was young, we didn't see police cars, maybe once or twice in a week. I see 6 or 7 police cars in a span of half an hour, and just need to, like she was saying, get it back to what it used to be.
That seems like a common theme. People are wanting things how they used to be. So let's start out, as you know, the question that I have, what I'm curious about for this conversation are the challenges and the issues that you see in your neighborhoods, maybe in your own lives, maybe in the lives of family or friends that are either getting in the way or maybe helping to enrich the health of babies and kids and even women while they're pregnant. So anyone want to have a first grab at it?
Okay, I'm saying there are a lot of people that get food stamps and they have no clue what to do with them. I mean, I have 3 nieces, and I've gone to babysit. And I go to fix something for the kids, and there's nothing but packaged, processed, breaded. There's not a vegetable to be seen. If there is a fruit there, you might get a banana, maybe grapes if the kids are lucky. I think that if you're going to be on a food assistance program, there should be mandatory nutrition classes and mandatory budgeting and how to shop. Because these kids have, I know people that walk around with a couple of $100 worth of food stamps. Yeah, it's hard to make it stretch, but I've done it. But and a lot of places, like during the summer, a lot of the farmers markets, if you go and bring your what they call it now,
The
EBT
EBT,
card,
right, the cards.
they'll give you an extra $10 voucher to get fruits and veggies. And you don't see kids out there taking advantage of it. But go in the refrigerator, oh my God, breaded chicken, breaded this, it drove me crazy.
So lack of knowledge about nutrition is a big one.
Big one.
And let's go back to what you were saying earlier about the, you kind of had a comment
Yeah,
that,
well, in my background as a paramedic as well as an educator now, I've seen a lot. And infant mortality there's a problem with just the lack of nutrition and grocery stores in walking distance. A lot of people don't have vehicles, and so they can't shop. And if they get to a grocery store and good food is not available to them, then it hampers the growth and development of both the parent, the child, and the family.
and you mentioned your own experience when you were pregnant with twins living in the neighborhood. Tell us
Correct.
about that.
I still lived in the Glenville neighborhood. I had a 3-year-old daughter. We would take the little stroller and walk 2 miles to the grocery store, belly and all, and just come back with the groceries in the stroller. But if that grocery store at the time was there, which is no longer there, the next grocery store is in Cleveland Heights that I could get fresh produce, and then Warrensville. And luckily I have a car now, and I still go to those other grocery stores.
So that concept of the food deserts that we hear about, where people just don't have access, is very real
It's very
in your
real.
neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Somebody else want to add?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I live in Cleveland Heights, but I work in Glenville. I actually worked for CEOGC. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but most of the people that accidentally stumble in there had no idea that we existed and what we do. But in the Glenville area and surrounding areas, we try to educate. We try to, speaking of mothers and newborns needing assistance, we have an awesome program called BAMS, Babies and Mother Support. We offer educational classes. The next one coming up we're working on is about couponing and budgeting and those kind of things. But the people in the area don't know that it exists. We help with all kind of, resources and information, but my real point of coming into this conversation is because we have adopted the community organization I belong to. We adopted 3 of the CEOGC Head Starts around Christmas times, and we brought gifts to all the kids. They were, so glad to receive the gifts, and we let them know, well, what is it that we can support you with? Because we're not just here for Christmas gifts. We really want to, meet your real needs. And they said, well, what we really need are hats and gloves and socks. I understood the hats and the gloves. I'm like, well, why do you need socks? Kids come to school without socks. I said, well, most of the kids don't have cars, right? They walk to school. These are Head Starts, pre-Head Start, little.
Yeah,
They
under
walk,
six and under.
and they don't have boots. So their feet are wet, their shoes are wet by the time they get to school. So you have kids that are missing out on quality early learning because they can't get there because they don't have the proper clothing. And that's something that I think we could eliminate so easily, So that is an obstacle to their health and to their education. As we know, early quality education is very key to their future success.
And that's so real to think that they don't have a basic like that. We're thinking of all these programs, but if you don't have boots and you need socks.
I'm thinking they're going to say books and art supplies, and they're like, we need socks.
Wow.
We're experiencing that
So I want to add to that because I hear exactly what Patty and Kim and Laverne is saying. I think what they're all saying is looking at the social determinants that people in high poverty areas deal with. And, I always say, it has taken years to create the monster. It's going to take years to slay it. And so I worked in education for the Cleveland School District. I the Sisters of Charity and with Neighborhood Connections. And I haven't met a parent, good, bad, or indifferent, who doesn't want to do good for their child. But some just don't know how. And so classes are being offered. They didn't have to be offered during a certain period. So she mentioned stress, the toxic stress, the chronic stress that someone endures just in trying to make it through the day. And so I work in infant mortality. We're looking at it in Huff. It's one of the highest areas in the state of Ohio, as is Buckeye and Central, these neighborhoods. But, there's so much. I look here with this discussion, there's my man here and myself. So I think like a lack of black male presence in the community, when you talk about infant mortality, it's done, and rightfully so, from a female-only perspective, but I think it should be done from a two-parent perspective. And so those are things that we're working on to try to address it because, again, in my past, I would see a young lady, if I'm at the stoplight, with 2 or 3 kids, carrying one, pushing one, and one trying to hang on to her, and I would make judgment. But as I understand these social determinants, then I look at her differently. And I think that's I think if we get to the root cause of why infant mortality is an issue in these neighborhoods that was once thriving and vibing, Glenville and Cleveland Heights, then I think we can start finding some answers. But I think just looking at it from a two-parent approach, because you have to include the father. I don't know one person who doesn't want to be a good father, but again, some just don't know how to do it. And so I think those are some of the things that causes a situation such as infant mortality.
And when you say root causes, elaborate. What do you see the root cause? What do we need to get at?
Education. As an example, she was mentioning the coupons. I know when I worked in the school district, there was this big, and it still is, the third grade reading scores are atrocious. And so I worked in Central, and I knew some parents who way of surviving was putting their kids on these individual educational plans, IEPs, because it means more support from local government or the county. But it creates a situation for them. It's a way to survive. So the lack of male being involved is paramount. I think that the NFL is doing a campaign now about the importance of fathers. It's paramount. The food deserts, in terms of why does Glenville has the only grocery stores that Save a Lot,
Right.
or look at the Daves in Central and compare it to the Daves in Cleveland Heights or Shaker Square, or even Payne. So the root cause, there's a lack of aspiration. People don't aspire to be because they don't see. And so you all can add to this, but I'm just simply saying, from my perspective, kids are creatures of habit. They learn what they see. They do what they see, and some of the things they see is not good. But it's even not their parents' fault, because it's a vicious cycle, I think.
And you want to add something, sir?
Yes, I'm with Lou Barker.
Lou, okay.
I would like to get on the area of the root cause of the problem. And looking at this situation over the years, because that's part of what my company does. We promote amulet sports and leisure activities, hobby games, and etc. I feel that though the root cause of the health problem and the mortality rate is due to lack of exercise and lack of a healthy living of the life. If the adult doesn't participate in a healthy lifestyle, then the kids is gonna suffer. And if the mother doesn't participate in some type of healthy lifestyle prior to conception. And the father.
So that role modeling of the
Right, and
parents
then you're
is
gonna
really-
have the problem. We advocate that we bring in activities to the neighborhood and start from day one and do it in a moderate way, rather than go to the so-called canteens and the health center that was established years ago. Then modernize that effort and start at day one and start living healthy as the parent.
If the children that are now having children never got the lesson, then it's definitely lost in the next generation.
And single parenting.
That's what I'm saying, single parenting. However, though I may have been a single parent for quite a long time, it was by choice, but I instilled certain values into my children and gave them those lessons. I'm finding in the school that I'm working in and other schools that I've worked in, the children aren't getting the lessons that our parents passed down to us and their parents passed down. And this is basically, and it can roll into the other conversations, this is basically how to sit and listen. From that to food, table manners, make sure you wash your hands before you eat. You know, small things like that. But if you're not getting those basic lessons ever, how do you pass them on to your children? So it does come back into education overall.
And ma'am, do you want to add something? What do you think
Well,
about
talking,
your hearing?
education is a big problem. Single parenting is a problem. And some of the single mothers get discouraged because the father isn't there, and so they like caring for their child. They get the attitude of, he don't care, I don't care, so the child is kind of left on its own, and that's bad. Where they pass out those food stamps, seems like they just give them and go. I don't know whether or not they have the educational, I don't know whether they have the nutritional classes to the people who receive the food stamps. You know, they just give them the food stamps and go. And they need nutritional classes or certain things they should buy, or plan out, have some kind of help with them. Because a lot of them buy nothing but junk, like popcorn, chips, whatever, because they don't, it's not a family life.
And-
They just want to throw them some and move on, especially if the father's not in the home.
And Levon, you brought up, you have a program, you called it BAMS, but people don't come. So what are some of the ways that there are programs out there, there are educational things, what are some ways you think people could be reached to participate in those that's not happening right now?
Well, we have to increase our community outreach, and with the organization, they are attempting to do that. You know, there's all.
Would you please pass the mic, sorry.
We have to increase our interaction with the community. We have to get out more. We have to be seen so that people can say, well, what is it that you do? And then we're able to share more. We have to get out to more community events. Like I could have brought some flyers here tonight, but this is my first time not knowing what I was coming to. Just networking. Of course, having a sign out there that people would understand, you know, what's inside the building might help too. But I think this is a start. Coming to events like this, spreading the message about what we do, and getting out in the community more.
And Neil, you have a big theme about getting the fathers involved. What are some solutions and ways you think we can get fathers involved from the ground up? You know, even while a woman is pregnant, her partner could be involved.
I think you have to let them know that there's a problem. I think a lot of people in the community don't know that infant mortality is a problem in their community. I don't think they know it. So when it comes to fathers, for as an example, here's a way to actually doing it. So I'm sure most of you know what a doula is. So what about a doula?
Let's go back. Explain what a doula is, because not everybody does know that
So
term.
a doula is basically a lady who's like a midwife to the expecting mother. So she's there with her all the time whenever she needs her to be there, from onset of pregnancy, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, and sometimes they become lifelong friends.
It's like a mentor
Yes,
throughout the process.
like mothering the mother.
Mothering the mother, okay.
That works. Well, what about the father? And the reason why this, came to me, I was going to a meeting at Cleveland Clinic maybe 3 months ago, and I stopped at a store, East 89th and Cedar, to get a newspaper. I'm still old school, still read the paper. And there was this young man in the store, had to be about 8:10 in the morning. He was buying a Black and Mild. He was distraught, and he had lost his baby. His ex-girlfriend, they were still friends. She had the baby, and the baby died. And he was on his way to University Hospital. And I got in my car and went on to the Cleveland Clinic. But I thought about it, I turned around, and I caught up with them on like 93rd and Euclid. And I took him to UH. I gave him my card. He never called. But in a meeting that we had 3 weeks later, it was about the doula. Someone had sent me a documentary on doulas from Chicago, The Day in the Life of a Doula. And I thought it was impressive, but I said, what about the guy? And I'm not a parent. I've raised many a nephew and nieces, and I said, but what about the guy? Because every guy that I know who's a father is proud as heck that they're going to be a father. And so in the work that we're doing, I'm a project manager for this health initiative that looks at the disparities around the neighborhoods that surround University Circle. A lot of residents who can walk to Cleveland Clinic or UH get their health care from Metro. And why is that? That's the issue that we're addressing, and not just us, Cleveland Clinic, UH, and CASE. And so in this work, because I'm the only guy, I keep saying, what about the father? What about the male? It takes two to tango, and even though, the pregnant woman should have the support, she should, what about the male?
So you see some room for a new
So
project
why
called
not
Doula.
Doula. You have
Doula.
doula, D-O-U-L-A.
Okay.
What about the doula?
All right, that's a great
That's
idea.
a great way something to think about in terms of how do I want to address it. And I will say too, I go out and walk. We canvas, we do door to door. There's engagement and outreach. I go out and build relationships. And I challenge the community institutions. What I mean by that is, we don't the institutions like UH and the Museum of Art and Severance Hall and CASE, but the community institutions we overlook. When we try to reach parents, infant mortality, lead poison, what have you, I go to bars, I go to pubs.
Go to where people are.
Where
Meet
people
them where
are,
they
and
are.
sometimes people don't come because we're not reaching them. So you may have to walk. I did it over here in Glenville, your neighborhood. I mean, we canvassed Glenville to get neighbors involved. And sometimes people are afraid to do it at first, but you go out, you knock on the door, and you'll be surprised what you'll get.
So maybe think outside the box
Yeah.
of where you're going to intersect with people. Go to where they are.
Yes, being innovative. You have to program differently. I know I read the paper, but most young people do not. It's social media. She knows. I mean, Gabe knows. I mean, really, it's social media. So you have to target market a demographic, because what I may say to a 21-year-old, I won't say to a 14-year-old. And being proactive. Let's get the young lady and the young man before they have a kid. Because sometimes we wait, I think, until it's already done. But I think if we be proactive, and again, don't forget about the men. I'm not being biased because I'm a guy, but I see it quite often. Even in my work, it's always ladies. And that's a good thing, but I think that's an approach.
Okay. Do you want to add some solutions you?
Okay, I love your idea, but I've also
No
met.
buts, no buts.
No buts. I have met.
You guys are gonna have,
You're coming for me.
well, we
man.
gotta hear it out. Let's hear it
No,
out.
I love that idea because what I've met along my travels is there are an unbelievable amount of young men out there that are proud they've made a baby, but not necessarily fully apprised of what it takes to be a father. And some of that comes from, well, he didn't grow up with one. And, it's a generational thing. So I absolutely love your idea because, as I said, I know of one young man who is barely 32 and has 15 kids, okay? I know another one that is 42 and has 17. I'm not even going to try to even show you the math on how many mamas are involved there, okay? There are a number. And they're proud. Yeah, I got 15 kids. Okay, but how many do you support? How many do you make sure they are tucked in at night or get their problem solved or properly dressed or eating properly? Yes, any man with working equipment can make a baby, but learn how to be a father, okay? And that's going to solve a whole lot.
Do you wanna add over there? You wanna pass them? You can hold on to this.
Also with the education, I think another problem is, and he touched on it slightly, is the lack of education as far as what happens between a man and a woman. What happened to health classes? Because a lot of schools don't even have health classes anymore. So how are they learning how their parts are working and what to do with them and what not to do with them? And then women, yeah, the wrong kind. And then women also, they don't know the basic functioning of their bodies. So if you don't know the basic functioning of your bodies, how are you going to be able to teach somebody else or know what's going on when you're in conception and what you need to do in conception because you're not getting those educational things going on?
So it sounds one common theme is education, be it nutrition, how to cook, even sex education in the schools about conceiving a child. Bless you, bless you. What are some answers?
Once again,
Let's pass them.
okay,
Bless you.
I hate to throw the government under the bus,
Okay.
but hey. And then again, hey. Basically, okay, you're going to give them food stamps. You're going to give them Section 8 vouchers. You're going to give them things to help them get the basics. But once you do that, teach them what to do with it, okay? Put it this way. I was on unemployment recently, okay? And in order for me to guarantee that my check arrived, it was mandatory that I had to go to a class. I had to take how to write a resume, though I've been writing them for years, and, I had to do interview classes. Anything that took to get a job, you had to attend this class and sign off and prove that you were there and took in the information. So, that's just to get unemployment. So, in the same respect, if you're going to give out the food stamps, if you're going to give out the Section 8, if you're going to give out the other programs that help, teach these people what to do with it.
And make it mandatory
Make
that they
it
attend.
mandatory
Okay.
that they do it because they need it. It is?
It's already in place.
It's in place? They have to?
Yes, they have to.
Because I don't remember either of my godnieces or any of them going to things like that.
They're mandated to attend
They are.
training, courses, all those things. But you would be surprised to know how many will not go, and they will risk losing their benefits
Are you serious?
Right.
Wow.
over and over again. They get sanctioned. And I work with these young people, and we try to provide resources and education and all these. But it's like you have to even get lower than that because you have to meet basic needs before people are going to get educated, right? I can't be hungry and you expect me to go to college. This is not going to happen.
That's
I have to
true.
have a place to live. I have to have childcare,
That's true.
right? So the government has to provide basic needs. But we have places out there that are funded with these block grants like where I am, and we can help beyond that. But you have to want the help.
Right.
And we have a whole generation of people. I'm sitting here mothering them and pushing them and calling them, did you go? Well, can you go tomorrow? Well, will you come see me again? Can I? And they just, I don't know how to reach them and motivate them to take the help.
And so here's the thing I'll say. Here's my two answers to your question about resolutions. I think number one, and we've been saying it, the root cause, but we call it looking upstream. We see the kids coming downstream. We keep plucking them out, plucking them out, plucking them out. We'll keep plucking them out. But let's go upstream and see how they're getting in the water.
That makes sense, yes.
I mean, really, and
Gotcha.
so, and then number two, I think, again, I don't think the community is aware that there is an issue in their community. Because when, like, if I pass today, my neighbors will know I'm gone, I lived a life, there's a funeral procession, you know there's an obituary. When a little one passed, no one really knows, so I work in it. So I don't think the community is aware that infant mortality is an issue in their community. So I think you have to create a marketing campaign to make them aware, not just the signs I see on Cedar, but you have to go in and you have to target market them, but create a campaign that touches everyone, because I know people who social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they do. And I think we have to be very savvy, and we have to understand, again, I'll say it again, it took years to create this monster. It's going to take years to slay it. We have to start somewhere, because otherwise we see what it is, and to your point, the programs are there, but they are not coming. They're not coming. Parents, fathers are proud to be fathers, but they're having 15, 17 kids, not taking care of their kids. But there's a reason why. So I say, let's look upstream and see why this stuff is happening. And then maybe we can start trying to find a solution.
So let's pass the mic and have everyone have a closing statement. That was great from you. Thank you. Hold the mic up so we can hear you, please. Thank you.
Sometimes I don't want to be heard.
Well, tonight we want to hear you. Got the mic.
As he was talking, I was thinking, I was reflecting back on pretty much my life and my life within the neighborhood. And it was more living than being healthy. And therefore, we didn't address the issues of being healthy. We were more trying to live than be healthy. And so I think that may be some of the causes of the root problem, is because the parent had very little money. The concern was feed the family. It was being healthy or buying healthy food was out of the question. You go to the store and you look and see what is the cheapest items, and usually the cheapest items are the larger packages. And of course, you're going to buy the larger packages for the less money, and you're going to feed your family. But your family isn't healthy, and most people are not aware of the fact that their family is not healthy, their family is poor, and let's deal with that type of thing. So once you overcome that, and the grocery store is not trying to make you healthy, they're only interested in selling you food.
When you say when you were coming up, you were interested in living and not being healthy, what do you mean by that?
Meaning that I had no conception of being healthy, but I did want to live, so I was more interested in living day by day, and the little bit of a future that we addressed was limited, and it wasn't based on being healthy. It was based on living, and that's the neighborhood that we lived in probably felt the same way. I'm not going to say that they felt the same way, but they probably felt the same way.
But you're saying it was a day-to-day struggle to survive.
Definitely. It was a day-to-day struggle to survive, food being included in that issue. The neighborhood people that live in the community, you have to take that into consideration. The gangs, the criminals, the neighbors that didn't like you because you wasn't the same color, All that come into play. When you go to the hospital's not interested in you being healthy. They're interested in you paying your bill.
So the day-to-day struggles of just surviving was really
It would take
paramount
away-
versus all this quest to be healthy. You didn't have that.
It will take away the fact that the day-to-day living struggle take away the fact that you need to be healthy. If we said that, if you put more emphasis on being healthy, then the struggle would be much easier. Because it's harder to fight when you're hungry.
So poverty is at the root of this.
Pretty much so.
And racism.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then when you're in a situation, people enjoy certain things. Because you're rich don't mean that you enjoy these things more than when you're poor. And when you're poor, you have more time to enjoy these things. So consequently, you have 5 or 6, and like you say, 15, 20 kids.
Let's pass the
Yeah,
mic.
just quickly,
Okay.
he makes a good point. You know, we know about white lining. We know there's a reason why Beechwood is a Beechwood, and X amount of people are not there or starting to get there. As an example, when I look at a Dave's, and I've done this, when I look at the Dave's on 40th and Community College or Quincy, go in there, look at the product, look at the produce
And the price.
and the price, and go to Dave's in Cleveland Heights or Cedar Fairmount, which is where I go, and compare and contrast. And why isn't healthy food at a decent price available? And I think one of the root causes is racism, and it's not just happenstance, as Lou was saying, in terms of people had to survive. So they didn't think about being healthy. He had to feed his family. And so it costs a lot of money to eat healthy. I'm a single person, so I'm good. But some people are not. They have kids, they have to provide. And so when you look at one of the root causes, and we brought up racism, I think that is one of the major root causes, that monster that has been created, that's been around for years, that's going to take some time to slay. And people have become conditioned. You know, there's racism, there's institutionalized racism, there's structural racism. It's something that's very prevalent, and I think it's even rearing its head more so now with a black president, but that's another story. But I think the root cause of some of these issues, these social determinants that we're dealing with, I mean, young black men being incarcerated, the pregnancies or what have you, I think racism is at the root, even still today, with some of the laws that public housing has instituted in terms of there can't be a male house in there. I think 98% of public housing are headed by single females, but drive through, you'll see the guy there. He's not on the lease. He doesn't live there. Why is that? So the racism that has destructed families, which is the nucleus of a community. She was saying that someone was saying people don't come in and eat dinner together because it's not designed to do. They get their food if they have food. They go to the bedroom, go to their phones. No one sit at the table. It's a well structured, I think, design plan that has imploded the community, and that's why we see what we see. Because there shouldn't be. Every neighborhood should have a decent grocery store, not a Save-A-Lot. That's an option. It shouldn't be a primary. So there's a reason. The roadway, transportation, people can't afford to get great health care because they probably can't afford parking. Why does it cost here at the main campus? If I go out to South Center Road at Cleveland Clinic, parking is free. So it's a lot. I mean, but racism is one of the root causes of all that we're talking about today. And that's why Lou and I sit here as two black men of different generations, and the rest are ladies of different generations, because this structural racism, this institutionalized racism, has created, I think, what we are encountering today.
If you go to a store that doesn't particularly like what they see when you walk in the door, they're not going to treat you that way, and they're not going to introduce the better products that they have in the store. So consequently, you don't know what to buy and when to buy, and if you can, he's going to sell you the worst product he has.
He makes it.
Listen,
Most people don't know. I used to work for a grocery store. I used to work in a warehouse of a grocery store. And this grocery chain would tell you that everyone gets the same food. They don't pick what neighborhood get what food. But what they do is they have a list of how they fill the orders. And usually the black area is on the lower end of the list. And so when they assembling these orders, some areas get the products first. And some areas get the product last because they're on the end of the list to be filled. And very few people know that. And they brag on the fact that you get the same food. Yeah, everybody gets the same food. They have a setup in a room, and you go from item to item and fill the order.
and Lou, when was this, when you worked in this warehouse? What time period?
It's been a long time ago. I won't reveal my age, but it was in the 70s.
Okay.
And so those are the type of things that you are not aware of. If you saying that your kids are not eating healthy, but the stores are saying you get the same food everybody else get. That's not necessarily true. You getting the last of the food that was sitting around in this warehouse.
I see you shaking your head. You want to have some closing thoughts?
Okay, yeah, I'm not bashing Save-A-Lot. but-
And you hold the mic so we can hear
Okay, but I kind of see what you mean because I used to work out in Parma. There's a Save-A-Lot at Broadway and Brook Park Road. There's also a Save-A-Lot 5 minutes from where I live in Glenville. And I've seen things in the Glenville one that I don't even dream you'd see at Broadview and Brook Park. But getting back to the other thing, I think there's a growing disconnect in society with people, basically a disconnect between cause and effect. People not take into consideration with their actions or lack of actions, how they have effect on their life, okay? Like, in terms of health, media is great. I love my computer, I have a smartphone, I have 2 tablets. But if I'm gonna go and sit on my tush all day and click, 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 and not get out and take a walk and not drink enough water and not take care of my health, guess what? I'm gonna get sick. And that's what's happening to a lot of kids. You know, Xbox, love it, play it myself. But when I was growing up, summertime particularly, you took your tushy outside. The minute it was light enough to go outside, you went outside. Well, it was safer then, too, though. But you went outside, you ran around, you climbed trees, you played, met with the neighbor kids. And unfortunately, because of that lack of connect now, you have to be more cautious. You can't let your kids just go outside and play because you might not see them again.
So safety
Safety
in neighborhoods is a big issue as well.
Major. Nowadays, like my little baby nephew, when he comes over and he rides his bike, if I have to go in the house for 5 minutes, guess what? He's in there with me. Mm-hmm. You don't leave your kid outside for 5 minutes because you may not see them again, okay? Nutrition. So I said, a lot of it is education, and someone needs to teach them, and people need to also take responsibility for their actions or lack of actions. You know, you need to learn, yes, you have these food stamps. How do I make the most out of them, but do the best for my family with them? And that comes down to education. You know, if no one ever taught you how to shop, you won't know. You know, if no one ever taught you how to put together ground turkey and some peppers and onions and make a meatloaf, you know, how would you know? So you rely on, ooh, the little quickie package meal. Take it, slap it on the pan, pop it in the microwave, bing, dinner's ready. You know, no one ever teaches you this, or you don't seek out to learn it. You know, that's what you have to deal with. So education is a big, big, big issue. People need to learn, need to try to expand and be willing to learn. And like the young lady said, the classes are there and people aren't taking advantage of it. There's got to be some kind of way to help hopefully encourage them to. Like every year our group holds a health fair. And it's called a health fair, but it's, and Mother will probably tell you a little more about it, it's more information sharing. And each year we seem to get bigger and bigger. This year we're going media crazy and try to hit younger audiences so that we can get information out there. And we do a variety of subjects, nutrition, vitamins, water, exercise. And
How do you think also, you have wisdom from Lou, from a different generation. How do you think, like bringing your wisdom with some younger and kind of that interconnectedness between generations so that people can learn from the past?
we used to have adopt-a-grandparent programs, whatever, and like when I was growing up in the Girl Scouts, and whatever happened to the Girl Scouts, by the way, you know, in some areas, there are a lot of elderly people that would love to tell you their story and share their information. But there has to be some kind of avenue available for the kids and some kind of venue for the kids and the elders to make that connect. Like I said, I've learned some of the best thing I've known from some of the older mothers in my church. And a lot of folks are looking for people to talk to. You know, a lot of elderly people would love to have somebody come and visit them, and they'll share their story, and you learn things. And we need some kind of venue that will promote that.
Levon, do you have some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I want to go back to the analogy of the river.
Yeah, that was good. The upstream down, that was good.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, and I wholeheartedly agree that we have to get to the source, but I cannot help but pluck those kids out as I see them floating down too.
You should.
So I think we need to combine. You go to the front, and I'm going to get in the middle,
You
right?
should.
So I'm thinking, you know, things that we can do. We can't get in everyone's home and teach them what they didn't learn as they were growing up, right? But we can help our children. So these kids that are in these Head Starts, these early Head Starts, kindergartens, elementary schools, we can help them. We can help them with healthier food alternatives, right?
Get the apple juice out of the daycare because that's full of sugar, right?
It is.
Right?
It is. Probably better soda than the soda that they're
Yeah.
drinking at home, the big 99-cent, you know,
They get thirsty, they'll drink
Fitz
water.
or whatever. But, you know, like my daughter, she goes to the Boys and Girls Club after school. It's a wonderful organization. But she complains continuously about the poor quality of the food. She won't drink the milk at school because she says it doesn't taste right. I mean, we have kids that are not getting proper nutrition. They're having 2 and 3 meals at these locations, right? So what if we could just, you know, put more emphasis into quality food and drink at the schools and the daycares and the Head Starts and things like that? What if we could make sure that they had dry socks and boots and winter clothes? I have a customer, she's a crossing guard, and she got in trouble because she's giving coats and stuff to kids that are coming to school because, you know what our weather's like. Right, and they don't have proper clothing for the winter. What if we could start with some simple things like that, you know? Just helping our children.
Basics.
As we're going to the front of the stream and finding out how they're getting in there at the same time.
Sounds good. Yep.
And some closing thoughts from you?
I'm concerned about these food centers. When they run out of their food stamps, they go to the food centers in the neighborhood. Well, certain neighborhoods have nothing but bread, pasta, macaroni and cheese, no vegetables, no fruits. And then you go out, other centers, you got your carrots, cabbage, collard greens, cherries, stuff. It's amazing what they give them. So again, racism. Nothing but bread, and all go in the garbage.
So elaborate when you say the word racism in that
Because
context with these food centers. What do you mean by that?
Like even East Cleveland food centers, as compared to a food center out in Lawrenceville or Bedford or wherever, there's a difference in what they pass out.
It's a theme that's come up a lot tonight.
Nothing but bread, nothing but pasta. Where are the vegetables? Where are the fruits?
And it's something, I know I've talked enough, but I think just adding to her point, it's also how it's delivered. Perhaps, it's, if you go elsewhere to where she's saying maybe in the suburbs or the food pantries in select areas, maybe you don't feel as bad receiving assistance because of how it's set up, as opposed to having to wait outside in a line when they know that the pantry is open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., but if they know folks are coming line up at 9 a.m., they open up at 9. And the quality of, there's a thing, I know people, pride has taken them down because they're too prideful, because sometimes they need help, but the way help is offered, they won't accept it. And so I think going back to the racism of it, I think it's how things are delivered. It's like, why is there Dave's like it is in the central neighborhood compared to one on a Cedar in Fairmount? Why is there only a Save-A-Lot in the Glenville neighborhood that has X amount of thousands of people in close proximity to this great university circle? Why is anybody starving anyway when there's food that's thrown away or someone gets in trouble for offering a coat to a kid who doesn't have one? So I think laws are set up, and I mean, you see it with the laws with the crack and the cocaine and who was selling crack, who was selling cocaine, and the sentences that crack dealers got compared to cocaine dealers. Where's the same difference? It's racism, but it's okay to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, we can't get to the root cause. I think that's a big thing too. Having a safe place and space to have the conversation, because it's on both sides of the spectrum. And so, and I work in institutions and community alike. And so you have to, you have to change the perspective on both sides of the spectrum. And that takes time. But I'll say again, there's racism to me is at the root of, which has caused all of the problems that we see in Black and brown communities, and the Latino community, and poor people, Appalachians. I've dealt with them in Cincinnati. And so Black, white, Latino, poor, it's been there. And discussions like these, I think, takes us to a place where we're at a point where we have to have the conversation, because you can run, you can go to Pepper Pike, and you can go to Orange, and you can go to Westlake, but it will catch you somehow, some way, because it affects all of us, even if we don't think it does, because we don't live in these select neighborhoods. Now I'm gonna shut up.
Well, I want to thank you all. This was a really good conversation, and I think a really necessary one. And I'm happy you all shared tonight. Thank you.